that different realities can also sit in different time frames.
The audience of this channel is interested in the alternative realities concept and the timelines concept as a way of being.
If I lost it, if I didn't turn this around, I would lose the respect of the entire crew.
The process of experiencing alternative realities is actually part of our constant reality.
One of the things that I'm working towards is where karma fits into all of this.
Your position as being the boss in the production is wonderful for just being able to create the group around you that you empathize with and you admire in this respect. It's a lovely position, and I think that's the joy of it, isn't it?
It really is. It really is, Tim. You see these people who, who bring such craft and artistry and commitment to something, and the actors. I mean, who in their right mind would ever want to be an actor? You really in film have no control over your performance because the control really is in the hands of the director and the editor. You can cut a performance 4 different ways. One way will work and 3 won't. You got to have huge respect for them. I do.
But one hopes that they have complete trust in the director, don't you?
I think if they don't have trust, then it's not going to work ever. There has to be trust at every step along the way, really. Whether it's with an actor, whether it's with the crew, whatever. If you lose that trust, then you lose the movie. I had a situation, Tim, and I won't tell names here now, but I was working overseas in America on a big movie, and I was having trouble with the lead actor. The lead actor was a very famous actor. All through rehearsal, this famous actor had issues with a younger actor, an up and coming, good looking up and coming kid who, came off theatre out of New York and so forth, and this older famous actor was essentially jealous of him and was threatened by him. Anyway, so we came to do this scene, which in rehearsal had been problematic. And we were in a very public place in a very big city in America. And this famous actor just lost it and hit this kid. Just hit him. Like assault and battery right there. Anyway, a very weird thing sort of happened. Suddenly all the crew just sort of stepped back and there was just me and the actor. And he's a big guy and he was enraged. And meanwhile, the younger actor picking himself up and dusting himself off. And I said, "Mister, let's leave the set. We've got to talk." Anyway, he grabbed me by the shirt, slammed me up against a tree, raised his fist like this, quivering with rage. And then for the next, it seemed like 30 minutes, maybe it wasn't that long, but it seemed that long. He's screaming at me with spit coming out of his face and his fist like this. And I talked him off the ledge. Basically. And we shut down production for the rest of the day. We came back the next day and continued work. But something occurred to me during the middle of that. And that is that if I lost it, if I didn't turn this around, I would lose the respect of the entire crew. And he would then be the boss man of the show, and he would be calling the shots. And I would be neutered as an actor. I had to win that, and not through physical force. Anyway, the funny thing is, I called up my agent. I had a big time Hollywood agent, still do. And I said, "You never guess what happened to me. This bloke, slammed me up against a tree. He's going to hit me." And the agent said, "Did he?" I said, "Well, no, luckily he didn't." He said, "Well, that's good because the last 3 directors he's worked with, he's punched out." Well, you should have told me that before I bloody cast him.
Oh, excuse me. Right. Oh my God.
Look, I don't often tell Hollywood stories, but that's one that sort of talk about trust.
Talk about trust.
But like I say, if I had lost that moment, then I'd lost the film.
It's a moment where there's a decision point a choice point or an
Mm.
action point, if you like. This relates directly, as far as I'm concerned, to your current project, which is what I want to talk to you about primarily today, which is Dead Image. Dead Image, to me, is full of those action points, those specific moments of choice and decision points. But tell us a little bit in broad terms what Dead Image is about as it stands at the moment. Where are you with it? How does it feel? What are you doing with it?
Right. Dead Image is a novel that I'm working on. It is an idea that has been bouncing around now for a good 10 or 12 years. It's been that long. Um, but that's normally how I operate, Tim. It needs an idea for me needs to go through, it needs to run the gauntlet really, over a long stretch, for me to finally embrace it as something worth taking on. And this has run that gauntlet, and it's refused to give up basically. It keeps on knocking at the door, saying, "Hey, I'm here." And funny thing is, there's this term, a writer writes, and I I guess you're a little bit like an athlete, who goes training each day. On the days you're not training, you sort of feel a bit uncomfortable. And when I don't write, I feel uncomfortable. And so I decided, I think it was in early January, I had this sort of built up, and I thought I've just got to write. And so I started writing this thing. Basically, it's a story. It's a what if story. What if you saw yourself kill someone? That's the basic premise. What if you saw yourself to kill someone? And it's not like an out of body experience. It's not like you've stepped out of yourself and you are actually physically there. We're talking about your dead image. You're an aspect of yourself that is identical to yourself, but is, the hair is different, the weight's a little bit different, the clothes are different, but it's you. Now, and that's a really intriguing, but just that one central idea has really intrigued me over all this time. Where could this go? Um, what would you do? And so that really has sort of teased me for all this time. Did you enjoy it, Tim?
I have to say, as soon as I started it with your opening sentence, when of course it's classic Bill Bennett starting right in mid-action, just like a movie maker, I would expect that. There we go. Oh, right, we're off. Clearly, it's not a book for kids. But yeah, I with it. I did read the whole document that you sent me, and there was look, my litmus test is: am I getting bored? Is this? Am I? Do I need him to hurry up? Do I want to skip on? No, I didn't. I wanted to follow it. I read it. So you've got lots of threads, and as soon as you mentioned Mulholland Drive, I thought, oh, okay, right, okay, he's going to link into some of that. I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen Mulholland Drive, but given that it's a David Lynch movie, I kind of get the feeling that you were alluding to in your character. You've written it in the first person, isn't it? So Blaze is your protagonist, your hero, heroine, whatever they call them these days. Why did you want to write it like that? Does that enable you to explore the theme of alternative realities? Is that what you felt?
Well, one of the things about writing in the first person is that it gives you a blinkered view. Now, this can be a good thing and a bad thing. Um, when I first started writing novels, I was writing the first of the Palace of Fires books. And I wrote 200,000 words all in the first person. And then I got to the end of it. 200,000 words is a big book. I got to the end of it and realized that I'd made a huge mistake in writing the first person. And I went back and I rewrote it all in the third
Oh,
person.
wow.
And what I discovered in that whole thing, and this took me over a year to do, um, just to do that rewrite. I mean, the whole writing of that first book took about 8 years, because I had to learn how to write a book, which is totally different from how to write a screenplay. Um, Somebody asked me what was the difference, and I said, well, it's like you play cricket with a bat and a ball, and you play golf with a bat and ball. You know, you got a bat and a ball, but it's two totally different things. It requires a total different skill set, and I had to learn that skill set. But one of the things that I learned about writing in the first person is that that blinkered point of view, you can't see outside that person's reality or that person's frame, frame, if you like. Now, that can be good because that can build tension, and what you don't see is aiding that tension. But it also can be very limiting because you can't bring in other characters. And in writing from the first person point of view, you can't cut then to the baddie making porridge that morning, and figuring out, what the baddie's going to do to the goodie, stuff like that. Now, here's something that might be a little bit of a spoiler because I'm up to now, what, about 30,000 words in. And I'm thinking, and a lot's happened since because I think you wrote up to about 1,000 words, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot's happened since then. But I'm thinking it might be really interesting now, just, we're at this really sort of heightened state at 30,000 words in. And I'm thinking it might be just interesting now to put a stop to that and go back right to the start and tell the whole story from her point of view, from the other person's point of view, from the double, if you like.
Yeah.
And you see, this is the joy I find in writing and going, wow, that could be a really interesting idea. I wonder where that might take me.
I think that's perfect. I think that's perfect. What I wrote down here is when you were talking about you can't cut to the baddie, and I get it that you can't kind of cut to the baddie in the third person and destroy the setup that you've had up to that point. But of course you can, and in a way that's what you're saying now, is that if you restart and revisit in that, sorry, I'm going to say it, but in that very David Lynch sort of way, if you're related to a movie, then I mean, there's, you're the rule maker, you're writing the story, and it would absolutely make sense and fit in with your with the whole alternative realities theme.
Yeah, and so if I was to do that, then I would be telling the story through her point of view, but it's a singular first person point of view, and I'm thinking, oh, that could be really quite interesting to do that. But the other thing I'm thinking about is this, Tim, and that is that the research that I'm doing into this stuff, and I haven't done all the research that I need to yet at this point, is that different realities can also sit in different time frames. So what about if this time frame was maybe 3 weeks later or 3 weeks earlier? And so you're telling the second story, if you like, from an advanced time frame. So then it's a little bit like, I don't know whether you ever saw my movie Kiss or Kill. What I did is I used a jump cut technique in that film. The film got a lot of praise at the time. And I sort of went a little bit beyond what Jean-Luc Godard did in Breathless. What I did is, and this becomes a little bit technical, but as a director, when you set up a shot, you set the shot up and you call action, and you've done rehearsals and people do the action from a certain set point. Now, what I did in this film is I did that, but then I moved the camera incrementally, only incrementally to one side, and incrementally pushed in or pulled back a little bit, incrementally, not sort of changing shots like from close up to extreme close up or something. But I also shifted the action point. So in other words, I picked them up like 3 beats later in the action or 2 beats earlier. So that combined with the incremental frame displacement and focal length displacement created a really interesting thing. And then if you connect that with the emotion of the scene or the emotion of the character at that time, and you kind of intellectualize what's going through that person's mind, is it fear? How can we represent fear cinematically in a very unusual way? By this displacement of both space and time. And it's one of the things that I'm sort of exploring with this book as well. This sort of displacement theory, how unnerving that can be.
Unnerving. Okay, there's a good word. Because one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you about this specifically was that as soon as you mentioned alternative realities, it was like, yes, the audience of this channel, who are not, they're not movie buffs, and then most of them are not writers. I know some of them are, but so our audience is interested in the alternative realities concept and the timelines concept as a process and as a way of being that they can actually align to. Now, obviously, we're talking in your book, Dead Image. It's a novel. It's a work of fiction, but what you're really exploring is the possibilities in real life. That's the nature of drama. Of this sort of drama. It's got to have a link into the real life. And you, at one point, certainly in the draft that I've read so far, you try to explain. You have your heroine talking to one of the characters, who the psychic, a detective, Declan, and Declan is describing how could an alternative reality exist, and you go into the quantum physics of it. Now, two things. One, I think it aligns with your feeling that you need to do more research, because it felt like, Bill doesn't really kind of know quite what he's writing here. I might cut this out.
I'm quite happy for you to keep it in. It's first draft stuff, and I am feeling my way. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? What excited me was about the idea before I've read it, and it still excites me about the book and where you are with it and what you want to do with it, is that actually the process of experiencing alternative realities is part of our constant reality. Because as we talked about right at the start, a decision point, a moment in time where a specific action is key and crucial to what happens thereafter, not necessarily in the sliding doors way, but for the next moments, for the next 10 minutes, or for the next 5 minutes, or whatever it be, that's part of what we experience as human beings every day. So one of the things that I felt you might want to consider exploring with Blaze, we touch on this when we're doing the house healing work, right? This whole kind of moving of timelines and helping people shift and changing their energy by helping the management helps them move into a different space. So I guess Blaze's doubt, the power of doubt versus the power of belief in the construct of the reality that is actually experienced. Do you see what I mean? So the Blaze as a character, obviously she starts off being your classic cynic. If you're taking her down the arc of changing that to a believer, maybe not, maybe you don't want to get into that anyway. But because you're writing a novel and not making a movie, you have the access into the inner world of her to a very deep degree. The power of lack of belief can be extraordinarily powerful.
Look, one of the things that I've discovered is, in the form of drama, is that it comes down to basic laws of physics. The laws of storytelling really come down to the laws of physics. And that is that if you've got stasis, then you need a force to, shift that stasis. If you've got a force coming in this way at a certain energy level, then you need a force equal to or greater than to shift that force back. It's the same in drama, crudely speaking. But when someone's life is at stake, then everything becomes very, very much heightened. I've lived all my life, and I don't know of any person close to me that's been murdered. Maybe I've lived a shorter life or a fortunate life. When I think about my friends, that's the same thing. So, and yet in drama, we seem to take this concept of murder as being something quite almost sort of natural, that it fits within a natural world. Now, we read about murders all the time in the press online and so forth and on television. But I've never experienced that. Now, if I were to experience that, it would have quite a profound effect on me. I sometimes think, all right, I'm going out for a walk. Jennifer's back at home and she's, sitting in the drawing room and she's quilting. What if I came back from that walk and she was dead?
Mm.
How would I respond? And I would be the first suspect.
Mm.
Now, I've gone out and walked by myself. Maybe some people have seen me, maybe they haven't. But I would then have to create an alibi. Oh, I was out on a walk. How long were you out for? I don't know, about 40 minutes. Where'd you go? I walked around the block. Who saw you? I don't know if anybody saw me or not. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so I think about these sort of things, and suddenly your life can change, with just something like that. Now, these are this is not terribly dramatic, but in my world it would be. It could be life or death. I could be facing years and years in imprisonment if I can't, come up with a satisfactory. Oh, the neighbours heard us having a row this morning. Um, it could be something as simple as that. There could be motive. Um, I guess what I'm saying is that what I'm trying to do in all the stuff that I do is grounded in a reality, because that's where I think the real emotion and the real um, the real empathy really happens. It's what I try to do with the Golden Bridge, and it's what I'm trying to do with this one. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I've got a good friend who is a world expert on this stuff, like a world expert. He travels around the world and gives symposiums on it and stuff like that. So he's at the end of the phone.
I was really unclear about how, as a psychic detective, by working on the alternative reality of the person's life, this is part of his story, isn't it? But how that resulted in a confession. That confused me. I didn't get that.
That comes out later.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that does come out later. What I'm creating with the confession is a 12-year-old serial killer. Yeah. So he starts getting at 8 years old.
Yeah.
And there is research based on this, that
Right.
it's really quite interesting. When I talk to this fellow that I'm consulting with, he says, you can bring in from a past life those characteristics, and
Mm.
irrespective of physical age,
Mm. Mm.
you can continue on with that. I mean,
Absolutely.
one of the things that I'm working towards is this, and it's alluded to, I think, in the material that you read, is where karma fits into all of this. Because that's a really big kind of topic. But the other thing too is that I'm setting up for this Declan Rose to become a regular character.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and the end point is that he employs Blaze to be his researcher.
Right. Spoilers. Right.
Um, yeah. So, because I just love this idea that you can actually solve a crime by finding out what's happened in a past life and how what has happened in a past life reflects in his current life.
Mm.
And that I think is the basis of a really interesting story
Yeah. I mean,
and a really interesting character.
see, that was what made me smile, was that this is part of what we work with as house healers. It is part of that subtle energy of an individual's experience that sometimes is relevant, that we look at that karmic issue or that past life and readdress that, the management readdress it to change, exactly as you say, to change the experience that the person is having now. So in that sense, it absolutely, I get it. And it's really, really brilliant. And it's great to have in there as because it's the story is fantastic. So, and I mean, I have to say, it's not exactly a walk in the park in terms of a lovely, bluebirds singing around your central characters and all the rest of it. It's quite dark stuff, isn't it, where you're going? But funnily enough, for me, what I always find fascinating is actually not the big stuff. The big stuff is there because you need it for the drama, the big stuff. But the day-to-day stuff that we all experience. So you've got a karmic energy. Everybody has it to a certain extent, but it varies completely how much each individual is influenced by it, and what their experience is of life. Really, to me, that's the exciting thing about this, is that you have the opportunity to really connect people to understanding that actually their reality is just based on what they expect day to day. But if you change those expectations, then you change the reality, because that, you're going into alternative realities as a deep, long, a period of time that is extended. So you're writing scenes of different alternative realities, whereas we can look at them as beats if it were movie speak.
Now, I want to ask you two questions, Tim, because this is a two-way street.
It is now.
Now, twice you've talked about management. Who in your terms is management?
All right. The management is a term that I have adopted from my mentor from years ago. Now, this is a guy called Hamish Miller. He was an author and a metal worker and a philanthropist. He died in 2010 for the second time. He had a near-death experience before that. But in his first near-death experience, he went up, he died and was up, he was up and met the, he just simply used the term the management, which applied to the highest beings that you can encounter, basically on that step between life and death. So on that dimensional doorway. Mm-hmm. I use the term the management to refer to more or less everything that is on that side that is non-incarnate, so is in a physical form. So any of the personalities, whether it be a guardian of a space or a spirit or anything, well, not a spirit so much, because that can apply to individual human lives that have just, they've passed on. But anything that is in a kind of an overseeing aspect. So our guides would be considered as management as far as I'm concerned. So when we are working with somebody's energy and helping shift that energy in their reality, what we do is we've identified the issues that are relevant for that person. So we do that through dowsing, and then we sit connecting to the management, connecting to the powers that are up there and are all around us all the time, to enable that change to occur in the person's reality. So we call it house healing, but nobody knows what house healing is, but because it just isn't a regular, it's not a regular kind of modality. So the term that I am tending to use at the moment is actually reality engineering, because although it's not down to us it's not, because our perspective on what is right and what is wrong, what is good or what is bad for a person, is it completely out of the picture. That it doesn't come into it, because it can't, because why would my subjective version of reality be any better for somebody else? But the management, who have the bigger picture and who know why that person came to earth and incarnate in their current living, in their current life, they can affect through us as a point of awareness in this dimension, the reality, so they can affect that reality of that person, right? And that's what we work with. So we're always working for the highest good and the greatest good, because that's what we want. Because as you say in Dead Image, every person really has an energy field that can stretch across so many different realities. And the many worlds theory, which is absolutely very popular in science, says that yes, you can have yourself being in very many different realities at the same time, of course. because we're not what we think we are. We are actually that wave of possibility all the time.
Mm.
Yeah. So the management is them that's in charge.
Okay, well, if I can just make a couple of comments, because I'm running the interview.
That's fine. It's a conversation. I have to say that this is what I expected. I wanted this to be a little bit different. I want you to be able to talk about your book and your work, but I kind of saw that it might be more of a two-way kind of conversation. So fire away.
Absolutely. This is why I enjoy talking to you.
Right.
So, just the term management has three aspects to it. One is it's secular.
Secular.
The other is secular. And the other is that it's prosaic.
Mm-hmm.
And the third is that it's hierarchical.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with all of those?
Secular, I need more understanding of what that actually means or how
Well,
you're
secular
using it.
being that's a-religious.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right.
It's
Okay.
not, it's quite purposefully
Yeah.
not connected. So in other words, you're not talking about source, you're not talking about the even the universe has a certain religiosity to it.
It does, but
I know it's a
the
different term.
reason that sorry, I actually lost you at that point. Say again.
Well, the universe isn't the management is what you're talking about. It's two totally different things.
No, it's not two totally different things. Now, you see, the thing is, I'm quite lazy with my definitions, unlike you. So, the way that I feel about everything is that I could use the word God, the universe. I tend to now refer to that as the conscious cosmos, or the management. Actually, I could use those interchangeably.
So the management isn't like a council of spirit guides or higher elders or anything like that.
No, because that indicates separation, right?
But doesn't management indicate separation? Because
It
you've got management and workers.
Yes, it does. And of course, the thing is with all of this is that we do have to as you know, constantly change our frame of reference, and therefore not necessarily the language, but because quite often language actually is not adequate to explain the concepts that we're trying to get across. But the management is appropriate as far as I'm concerned because it suggests that there is another aspect to reality that is actually able to see the bigger picture, able to influence us. And I'm okay with the idea of workers. I don't see management and workers as actually a derogatory terminology, but I do accept
you're a socialist. I knew you were a socialist. You're a communist.
That's interesting, isn't it?
You're a communist.
Interesting that I'm completely apolitical as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah. So, so it's interesting, yeah. So the concept of there being something higher and superior to us is the concept that I'm quite happy with. Secular, in terms of religious, definitely 100%. It is irrelevant. Religion is a human construct. It's irrelevant. And the other one that you mentioned was hierarchical. Yeah, hierarchical. Well, we are talking about hierarchy, but not in the sense of a kind of a patronizing or a a kind of parental kind of approach to it. It's hierarchical in terms of, look, we are created and having this experience. We are here because we've had conversation with the management before we arrived here. So we have agreed with what we're doing. But coming back to the idea of non-separation, but I do consider that to all be connected through and part of our experience. So if we ignore the fact that we are sitting in an obviously three-dimensional boundary-driven reality, it has edges that have friction, and friction is important for any drama. That's what you're talking about earlier. If we ignore that and we think just about the experience we have, in all its ephemeral nature, its emotional nature, these things that are not bound in substance, but they are experienced, then you can very easily connect that through and up in through the echelons of experience and personality into a very high plane. And yeah, I would take it back to source if you want to use that word, but that to me is secular as well.
I think it was, I'm sure there'll be people who might correct me here, but I think it was Madame Blavatsky that first brought up the concept of hierarchy, a person's
Right.
hierarchy, the spiritual hierarchy. And I know closer to home, Amanda Guggenheimer deals with that quite a bit. Somebody that I know and have worked with. Um, but management, okay, I'm gonna file that one away, Tim.
I can see, I can see,
I'm gonna
I
file that
can
one
see
away.
you, I can see your cogs whirring there. It's like, okay, well, we'll put that to one side and we'll just see how that stands up, stands up
Yeah.
to scrutiny.
Um, it's interesting. I'm reading at the moment. I'm just almost finishing the Three Body Problem, the Chinese trilogy. I tell you what, Tim, it's been a while since I've read a book that really has shifted my whole conceptual view of the world in the way that those three books have. Um, but I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'm sort of I then start to read Paul Selig and his books,
Mm,
and Paul is all about, I'm sorry, his guides, because
yeah,
he is a very real channeler.
yeah.
Um, he the guide's all about this. There's so many problems associated with separation,
Mm.
and the separation is an absolute total illusion, and that there's no separation.